Grant Hill has had the announcement today that he's a nominee for the Hall of Fame, and I want to hear him and Rachel Nichols, Tracy McGrady, and Paul Pierce talk about it, discuss it.
Grant Hill. Oh my! Bragging rights.
You see Grant Hill dunking on Alonzo Mourning. Grant Hill was a phenomenal player, man. Grant Hill played at Duke, and I see him catch a lob. He was a freshman at Duke. That's when Duke won, I believe, the first national title or the second national title. And I was like, man, this guy's a great athlete. But I didn't know what kind of basketball player he was going to be on the court. He developed not only as a great athlete, but a great skilled basketball player. And Grant Hill was a tremendous player back in the 90s.
At the moment belonged to Hill in the Heat's house. The hard foul on Zoe. And a dynamite dunk right down the pipe at Mourning.
Broadcaster and just one of my favorite human beings on earth, Mr. Grant Hill. I'm so I know. We've been working on this for 2 years. Reunited, and it feels so good. We got to start here because you are a nominee for the Basketball Hall of Fame. Your guy over there is in. He got the orange jacket. What does that feel like?
Yes, Grant Hill is a nominee, but I believe he's going to get in, man. Grant Hill, he had about 7 years of, to me, he had 7 years of dominance in the NBA. He was LeBron James before LeBron James. He rebound, he assists at a high level, rebound at a high level, defended at a high level, and scored at a high level. So Grant Hill was a tremendous player. He's going to get in. I always thought he would get in. Just like football, Gale Sayers had 6 or 7 dominant NFL years. But you just knew how great these guys was, and just injury robbed them of being a pro for a long time, for 10 years or more. But for 7 years, they did dominate, just like Gale Sayers. He's in the Hall of Fame, deservingly so, for the Chicago Bears. And Grant Hill, he should get in the Hall of Fame because he did have 7 dominant years to where you knew that this guy was very special. He was the guy that was supposed to take over. Or he did for a couple years, you know what I'm saying, when Jordan was absent. He was the biggest star. The NBA was pushing Grant Hill back in the day.
To get the call to the Hall.
On the committee, too.
Oh! By the way, he's not supposed to say that, so he just let y'all in on the secret. Don't tell anyone that Tracy said that. Go ahead.
No, it's amazing. I mean, just to be honored and be selected as a finalist, not the real deal yet, but it's just a great feel.
And I actually remember Grant Hill playing against the Chicago Bulls. He gave Scottie Pippen a headache. Scottie Pippen could not stop Grant Hill. Like, Scottie Pippen did pretty well against other forwards that he played, other small forwards and shooting guards, and even some point guards. But Grant Hill was just a nightmare because he can do so many things on the floor. He can face you up, drive. He can pass. He was a triple threat player: pass, shoot, and drive. And Scottie Pippen had nightmares trying to guard that guy, including Tracy McGrady over there too.
And obviously I went through a lot during my career, some highs and some lows, but and seeing Matt go through it last year and just following him and seeing him at the Final Four be announced and watching him give his speech and go through the whole ceremony. So Paul will be there soon.
Yeah, Grant Hill, he got hurt. I remember Detroit Pistons. He went to a bad Detroit Pistons team. That was right after the Bad Boys era. They didn't really have a lot of talent. He drugged that team to the playoffs for the first time, and I remember him hurting his ankle in the game, and instead of sitting out because he never had made the playoffs and he was glad to be in the playoffs, he played on a hurt ankle and he displaced his ankle, and his career from that point on never was the same. They also had T-Mac on that team, and not Grant Hill, but Tim Duncan. What people don't realize, Tim Duncan was going to join that team, but Doc Rivers told him he could not have family on the plane, so therefore Tim Duncan didn't come join Orlando, and they would have been a big three. I believe at that time Grant Hill was 25, I believe, and Tim Duncan was probably 25, and Tracy McGrady was the youngest. I believe Tracy McGrady was 22, 23. They would have won titles. They definitely would have won titles. If those three would have got together, they would have won at least 3 titles.
Enough. And,
I hope so.
Oh, no, it'll definitely be there. And hopefully it happens this year.
That's a good class. Ray Allen, Chauncey Billups, Richard Hamilton, Steve Nash, Jason Kidd, Grant Hill. The only one I don't think is going to make it this time is Richard Hamilton. But Richard Hamilton might make it. Detroit did win a lot of basketball games with him and Chauncey Billups leading that team. They won one title. They should have won two versus the Spurs with Robert Horry. He lost, not Robert Horry. Rasheed Wallace lost Robert Horry in the corner, and Robert Horry hit the three. So they lost that title, but against the Spurs. But I don't know if Hamilton, he's about the only one. Chauncey Billups is a little bit on the ropes too, but I believe Chauncey Billups should make it. Ray Allen definitely is going to make it. Jason Kidd and Steve Nash are definitely going to make it. Steve Nash, we all know, won 2 MVPs for the Suns playing in that Mike D'Antoni system. He was great in that system. He made that system go. You know what I'm saying? He made Amari Stoudemire, Sean Marion. Those guys was not the same after they were traded or not playing with Steve Nash.
T-Mac, do you have any advice for Grant? Just we're gonna all
this guy he run for president.
Well, that is true. We're just gonna assume you're making it in because we know you are. The speech, you and I talked for like 2 weeks before your speech. It was tough to put all that together.
It is. When I was announced as,
and let me say this, Tracy McGrady, he does deserve to get in the Hall of Fame based on him being a dominant scorer in the early 2000s, but he never got out the first round, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think Tracy McGrady ever got out the first round. To be fair, he thought he's going to go play there with Grant Hill, and he was going to be able to play, possibly with Tim Duncan, but Tracy McGrady never really got out the first round. I believe a guy that I think should make the NBA Hall of Fame is Mark Aguirre. They used to play for the Pistons because, he got traded to the Pistons from Dallas. And when he was with Dallas, he was a top scorer. He came to the Pistons. He took a lesser role, but he was able to win a couple titles with Detroit Pistons. He was a very, very integral part of that team. I believe Mark Aguirre is a Hall of Famer also. If Tracy McGrady can make the Hall of Fame, Mark Aguirre should make the Hall of Fame. Seriously.
the finalists, or that I actually was getting in. From that time on, I was preparing for my speech. I don't like speaking in front of people like that when I'm center stage. So I was preparing every single day. I was in Hawaii. I had it on my iPad, my speech written out, and I was just going over it time and time again. And then actually what really helped me out is when I did my rehearsal on that day, and I saw how the stage and everything was going to be set, and all the pressure was just relieved off of me.
Because you're like, oh, this is the deal.
Like, I got this.
Set up. All right.
Yeah, Grant Hill, he's definitely going to get in. I always thought Grant Hill was going to get in because the NBA recognized that man's a great dominant player. He was a dominant player at his time. He just, injuries robbed him of his, ability to play a little bit longer. But in my estimation, if you have 7 years of dominance, that's good enough for you to make the Hall of Fame in any sport. Anything after 7 years, you're a little bit past your prime. You still good, you know what I'm saying? But you're not as dominant as you was when you're younger. He was dominant when he was younger. But I'm happy for Grant Hill, man. He went through a lot. He did come back from his ankle injury and had more surgery and more surgery and more surgery. He just kept coming back. I believe he ended his career with Phoenix, if I'm not mistaken. He ended his career with Phoenix. He said he hurt himself in the layup line, and he said after that he retired because, he was older. He had a lot of wear and tear on that ankle. But, Grant Hill making having a Hall of Fame, nominated for the Hall of Fame, congrats, man. Hope he make it.